KFFR, beautiful, beautiful musics of Okonski, a great band from Colemine label that's just about to release new album in February, and that was October. One of the tunes that's been pre-released and entrance music. And by fortune, we have the leader of the band, as they would call it, Steve Okonski. Really excited to have him on Mateo's Magic Bus and KFFR today. And as I said, the entrance music album will be coming out on the 28th via Colemine, which is not just the label, but actually was recorded at the new studio there as well. Features three members from an amazing soul band, Durand Jones The Indication, who we've featured here early and often on the bus over past years. And Steve's on keys and organ, and drummer Aaron Frazer, and bassist Michael Montgomery. And so they all do double time with Okonski as well. And so, Steve, you hit on at least two of our key roots here on Mateo's Magic Bus, jazz and soul, and probably more. I'm hearing other things in there, and just love listening to your stuff, and really glad to have you here today. So big KFFR welcome to you, Steve.
Appreciate that. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with your origin story, where you came up, your early influences. You came up near Detroit in Southeast Michigan, not far from where I grew up in South Bend, Indiana. And I love this story from an interview that I had grabbed off the web. Your first musical memory, your family got this piano on the street on the curb, and it was getting thrown out, and your dad and a couple buddies rented a truck and brought it in your house. And it was an old turn of the century Grinnell Brothers Detroit brand upright. You're about 5 years old, and I guess that was the universe really speaking loudly to you. And kind of give us your journey from there. The next day you were on it, playing it, and then kind of bring us from there, kind of where maybe you joined up with Durand Jones, and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so that's a solid 20 some year experience that I'll try to boil down here. But I took piano lessons as a kid from a woman down the street with various levels of enthusiasm, as I think probably most kids do. Up until I was about 13, and then it really started to click. I started to enjoy it, and things progressed a lot more. And I went to Eastern Michigan University in Ypsilanti and studied classical piano there before wanting to study jazz more, but they didn't have a jazz program. Uh, but found some really great teachers uh, to kind of lead me in the right direction. And then I moved to New York in 2010. And I had a duo with my buddy Justin Hampton, who I grew up with, and then another Bloomington connection, which I think we'll probably get to a little bit. I started playing with Sean Fleming from Diane Coffee, and so that was my initial Bloomington connection. And on that record that I was touring on was one of the members of Durand Jones and the Indications as well at the time, Kyle Haupt. So just weird interlacing storylines. In New York about 2015 or 2016, I started playing at the Jalopy Theater every Friday night with Wyndham Baird and his band, and the drummer for that was Aaron Frazer. And this was after the Indications had put out their first album, after they had done, I think, a small California tour and maybe a Midwest tour. But I think it was upon the re-release or upon the proper release on Coal Mine, there was going to be some more touring, and Aaron asked if I'd be interested in joining up. And at this point, Aaron and I had played together for years. We had been in so many different projects together, and we knew we got along really well, but pals and musically. So it was a no-brainer, to join up. And so been playing with the Indications since 2017.
No, that's awesome. And a great varied past, and brought you to that. And like you had alluded to, and I think I did too, we share some of the same roots, not just growing up near one another, but also with IU Bloomington, with Durand Jones and the Indications starting there. And as some folks know, some folks in the business know what an amazing both classical, jazz, and just general music school IU has. I was there 4 years, and just just loved going to so many shows all around town. And I took David Baker's beginning,
Oh,
sort of
wow.
origin of jazz for
Yeah.
dummies in a way. It was for non-musical students. And that kind of changed my life. He was just such a force. And so so take us from joining Durand Jones and the Indications to what's that day where you wake up and you're like, I'm gonna do my own thing here. What's that look like? And kind of the inspiration behind that.
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's not like it wasn't a eureka moment or anything, but I think, Aaron and I had always, like I said, we had played together for years, and there had been many times where we've been writing together, just playing, and a lot of instrumental stuff, ideas that I had that I didn't really have an outlet for, but nothing I thought too seriously about either. And then there was one time the Indications, we were touring, we were going through Cincinnati, and this wasn't the first time I met Terry, but we were at the old studio that was above Platinum Records in Loveland, Ohio. And so Aaron and I decided to just record something, and Terry was playing bass, and it was really loose, but it was just really fun. And I talked to Terry afterwards, and he was interested in doing something a little more kind of, well, just a different kind of instrumental project. And um and so I was, excited to try to get some of these ideas out. And we had the first session was really, I came with more like composed music, and this is what ended up being the trio session demos.
Mm.
And you'll see, you can hear we did a ton of overdubs. There's electric piano, there's organ, there's electric bass, and that went really well and was fun. But then it was that last night we were recording that, we just ran tape. We were playing all acoustic instruments and we were just improvising, and we realized, oh, this is what it's all about. So yeah, so not like a specific time when I was like, I need to have my own project, but there was just enough that happened organically that it felt really good, and was really happy with what we came out with.
And is Biblio one of those from those early sessions? We started the
Yeah,
show with that. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
Biblio, and then there was three others that we released on a little EP last about a year ago around this time, and was glad to get them
Yeah.
out there. I mean, obviously much different, but just another flavor.
Awesome. You're listening to Mateo's Magic Bus on KFFR, and we're interviewing Steve Okonski, whose band Oksonski is set to release on Colemine, a new album in February, and we led in the show with October, which is the pre-release of that. Beautiful, beautiful music, and we're really excited to have Steve on the show. So I've listened to Entrance Music a few times and really love it, which is the name of the new album from Coal Mine. And Magnolia, these are your words, resonates with your time in New York. Entrance Music feels a little less on the streets at 2 a.m., a little more nature-based, a little more ethereal. And I think the ethereal is definitely the word that I, conjured in my mind. It's definitely age, environment, family, all that does come through the music. So kind of begs the question, let's talk about the sessions in the new album. You recorded it over 5 days with one of the first albums at the Portage Lounge, which is, you mentioned Terry before, and that's Terry Cole of Coal
Mm.
Mine Label, one of the two brothers, right?
Yep.
Who started it in Loveland, Ohio, from originally their music store. I think they're all in. They pitched whatever day jobs they were doing, and it's a great story. New setup with Terry behind the dials was very familiar, as you said. So the energy and the sound of him at the label and being there controlling the dials to, sort of take us through what those recording sessions were like.
Yeah, definitely. We're recording this second album in the new studio in Loveland, so not far from the original, but out a little more out in the woods. And yeah, Terry Cole was engineering and producing with me again. And this is coming now after uh, 4 years of living in Asheville, North Carolina, where I'm at now.
Mm.
And so it's just a different set of emotions I think I was pulling off of, and it's just a kind of different energy that I'd been living the last 4 years, as opposed to kind of all everything that led up to Magnolia. And I think being in the studio, again, extremely comfortable, but also, looking out the window and seeing, the backwoods there. It was very, yeah, I think, as you mentioned, it felt very natural in like the nature sense.
So I don't know this, so I'm just sort of postulating. Same kind of piano that was dropped on your front doorstep when you were five. It doesn't sound
Um,
like a grand piano to me. It sounds more like an upright or I
it
don't,
is a Wurlitzer upright spinet piano, I believe, in the
wow.
Colemine studio. And so it was actually, a little bit smaller than the piano that I had growing up, but probably equal amount of character to it, certainly. But yeah, that little piano's got something special to it, and it's always a pleasure to sit down and play.
And I will be playing the album a lot in the coming weeks and months and years and decades here on the bus. But when I hear that, it does so from somebody who's grown up playing the piano and the organ and um, it creates a different feeling, than the grand, right? I mean, doesn't it? It's a little more
Definitely.
immediate. I don't know the feedback from it. How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between, there's so many differences between so many different pianos, but that piano has a lot of character. And I tune pianos. And so I went through and I tuned that piano as well. And it's not perfect. And I'm glad for that. It
Right.
helps me get in touch with it a little bit more, but you can hear even in October, there's some notes that are rubbing, but I really, I like the character that brings to it. And there are times sitting down at really nice grand pianos that are perfectly in tune, and it doesn't feel as organic, I guess, to me.
Organic. Yep, that's the word. Well, that's super cool. And so moving on to just kind of talking about the coal mine ethos and your ethos. I mean, you're all part of that orbit, and you're not the first coal mine recording artist we've had on. We had the Ironsides and
Oh, nice.
Eli Paperboy Reed, who's done some things with coal mine, but he's on kind of on his own tilt as well. And Harlem
Yeah.
Gospel Travelers, which he kind of helped get going. We had them on.
Yeah. Grammy
Uh,
nominated.
yeah, man. So I mean, just something that really just excites me, kind of that flies in the face of the trend in music right now. And you and I talked a little before the show about this article in this book, Liz Pelly. It's called Mood Machine: The Rise of Spotify and the Costs of the Perfect Playlist, which is in the New Yorker, which I definitely welcome folks to read. It's very informative, kind of about how Spotify is changing how we listen to music. And the article concludes, if your art practice is so ingrained in the brutal reality that Spotify has outlined for all of us, then what is the music that you're not making? What does the music you're not making sound like? And I think it sounds like what you're doing is, you guys are making that music, and I can't wait to get I already ordered your album. It's getting shipped now, but give us any thoughts you have on that.
Yeah, I mean, I also read that New Yorker article, and I think that's an interesting quote, at least as far as a prompt to a musician to at least try to think outside the box a little bit. And I think that is something that myself with Mike and Aaron have gotten very comfortable with is just, I mean, we're not doing this for Spotify plays, and we're not doing it, for album sales, and anything that happens is excellent. I don't want to say that it doesn't fire me up. I love seeing streams and accolades and all that, but it's not the point of it. The point of it is because it feels good, and it's like emotions we're trying to express in the rawest form. And, we're not the only ones doing that. There's so many folks, John Carroll Kirby and Sasha Panfilov and Bremer McCoy and Salenta and Topu. Like there's just a long list of folks who I think are playing this music that is really organic and calming and special to listen to. And so, yeah, to your point of like, what's the music you're not making? I think it's I think that is a good prompt for an individual musician, but if you're a listener, the music that you want to be hearing, it is out there, I think. I mean, I think, not to say there's nothing more that can be added to it, but uh there's a lot of music out there for sure.
It feels to me like there's a greater volume than there ever has been, but it's obviously you got to go fishing, right? You can't just sit there and listen to WLS in Chicago and have them feed you their playlist and make it, which I got to listen to last weekend, and they're still playing great pop music, but folks tend to kind of listen to the same stuff over, and then Spotify kind of hops on top of that. But one of the pieces in that article is I think the album industry is now 28 billion or so. I mean, the album industry has continued to grow, and so that music is out there, like you said, but it's maybe just a little bit harder to find.
Well, that's why I feel thankful to be on a label like Colemine too, that doesn't specifically cater to this brand of music that I'm playing, to be able to be introduced to them through the indications. And then, I played with Say Shishi and recorded on their first album. And
Oh, they're
um,
unbelievable.
yeah, they're
We played them
fantastic.
in the first set. Yeah, they're
Oh,
phenomenal.
nice.
Yep.
Like to be introduced to coal mine in one sense, and then to have them be willing to back this project, I think it's cool that it will introduce this, I mean, jazz, for lack of a better word, this spiritual music to a audience that wouldn't necessarily go looking for it, but they find it because they know the quality of music that coal mine is putting out. So I'm very thankful to be on that label and with have so many talented musicians as label mates.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, bringing it back into the station, you mentioned or I read somewhere a potential tour. Please come to Colorado if you do. We'll help with any of that. We'd love to have you play in the station here. We have a great performance space. Please acclimate for a few days before you come up.
Yeah.
We're up pretty high.
Yeah.
But what I guess it's hard because you have this album coming out and you just want to put all your energy there. But do you feel the continuation of the band Okonski and possible tour ahead?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, this year the indications are going to be back hitting the road again. So I'm going to be staying busy with them. And we've got a new indications album coming out this year. So there's going to be a lot surrounding that. But I don't have anything booked yet, but I am hoping to hit the road for some amount of time this summer, maybe with the trio. We've only ever done one show live. So it's really excited me to be able to have the opportunity to do more.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, looking forward to that, and please put Denver, Colorado, Winter Park on your map, and we'll
No
do
doubt.
everything we can to
Absolutely.
get there. And hopefully this is not the last time we have you on the station. And I thought, listening to your catalog, one tune I really love is Dark Moon. So I thought
Hmm.
I'd sort of let that one ride us out into the sunset if that's all right with you.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, well, it's been great talking with you. Appreciate the time.
All right, Steve Okonski, looking forward to his new album and the band Okonski on the Colemine label, released later in February. We'll be playing that as the songs come out, and we appreciate you having you on, Steve.
Thanks for having me.
All right.